All right, Workbook Lesson 31 of A Course in Miracles. I am not the victim of the world I see. I am not the victim of the world I see. This is the first time in the workbook. We just saw the word God for the first time. Now we see the word victim. This is one of the very few times I think that word is used in the workbook. Let's read it. Paragraph 1. Today's idea is the introduction to your declaration of release. Again, the idea should be applied to both the world you see without and the world you see within. In applying the idea, we will use a form of practice which will be used more and more with changes as indicated. Generally speaking, the form includes two aspects, one in which you apply the idea on a more sustained basis, and the other consisting of frequent applications of the idea throughout the day. Paragraph 2. 2 longer periods of practice with the idea for today are needed, one in the morning and one at night. 3 to 5 minutes for each of these are recommended. During that time, look about you slowly while repeating the idea 2 or 3 times. Then close your eyes and apply the same idea to your inner world. You will escape from both together, for the inner is the cause of the outer. Paragraph 3. As you survey your inner world, merely let whatever thoughts cross your mind come into your awareness, each to be considered for a moment and then replaced by the next. Try not to establish any kind of hierarchy among them. Watch them come and go as dispassionately as possible. Do not dwell on any one in particular, but try to let the stream move on evenly and calmly without any special investment on your part. As you sit and quietly watch your thoughts, repeat today's idea to yourself as often as you care to, but with no sense of hurry. Paragraph 4. In addition, repeat the idea for today as often as possible during the day. Remind yourself that you are making a declaration of independence in the name of your own freedom, and in your freedom lies the freedom of the world. Paragraph 5. The idea for today is also a particularly useful one to use as a response to any form of temptation that may arise. It is a declaration that you will not yield to it and put yourself in bondage. Now, I noticed that the word declaration was used several times. For all we know, I'm sure someone probably knows when Helen took down this lesson. It might have been on July 4th. The workbook lessons came after the text. Some years later, I believe. She started in 65. I'm not sure exactly when she started scribing the workbook, but it definitely was later. And for all we know, like I said, this could have been on or around July 4th, because obviously Jesus makes a reference to the Declaration of Independence here. The American colonists were not the victims of the cruel British Empire. They may have thought that they were, but they were declaring themselves independent. But anyway, let's read it, talk a little bit about it. I am not the victim of the world I see. Remember, fundamental principle is projection makes perception. Right? So projection makes perception. So keep that in mind, and we're going to talk about that. That's a key phrase to remember and to always keep in mind, actually, because it's really the foundation of what the Course, one of the foundational principles of what the Course is teaching, is that what we project from our mind is what we will see. That is the world we will see. What we project out is what we will see. Or the world is an outward picture of an inward condition, right? So whatever condition our mind is in inwardly is what it will project out, and that is the world it will see. Paragraph 1. Today's idea is the introduction to your declaration of release. Again, the idea should be applied to both the world you see without and the world you see within. In applying the idea, we will use a form of practice which will be used more and more with changes as indicated. Generally speaking, the form includes two aspects, one in which you apply the idea on a more sustained basis, and the other consisting of frequent applications of the idea throughout the day. Okay, so this is the beginning of a new way of doing these lessons. One is where you will be doing them throughout the day, and there also will be specific times during the day when Jesus will ask you to do these, and to focus a little bit more on what it is. It's interesting that Jesus does not talk about the idea that much today. For what does this mean exactly? He doesn't really give us too many details, but let's read on. Paragraph 2. 2 longer periods of practice with the idea for today are needed, one in the morning and one at night. 3 to 5 minutes for each of these are recommended. During that time, look about you slowly while repeating the idea 2 or 3 times. Then close your eyes and apply the same idea to your inner world. You will escape from both together, for the inner is the cause of the outer. So you start with your eyes open, and then you close your eyes, and you repeat this idea. Your inner, what you see inwardly is the cause of what you see outwardly. Projection makes perception. This is also one of the beginning lessons, one of the first lessons that doesn't have examples where Jesus says, I am not a victim of blank, right? Or I am not a victim of that person, or I am not a victim. He doesn't have that here in this lesson. Do these slowly, unhurriedly, relax. Don't be in any rush. Paragraph 3. As you survey your inner world, merely let whatever thoughts cross your mind come into your awareness, each to be considered for a moment, and then replaced by the next. Try not to establish any kind of hierarchy among them. There's no hierarchy of illusions. There's no order of difficulty in miracles. Don't make one thought more important or less important than another. Don't make any thought special or another thought unspecial. Watch them come and go as dispassionately as possible. Do not dwell on any one in particular, but try to let the stream move on evenly and calmly. This is like meditation, right? Without any special investment on your part. As you sit and quietly watch your thoughts, repeat today's idea to yourself as often as you care to, but with no sense of hurry. 4. In addition, repeat the idea for today as often as possible during the day. Remind yourself that you are making a declaration of independence in the name of your own freedom. And in your freedom lies the freedom of the world. So you set your own mind free, and in setting your own mind free, you set free the world. You definitely set free others around you, because when you're at peace, other people will tend to be peaceful too. And they will learn from you. They will learn peace from you. You will be demonstrating what it looks like to be at peace, to be calm, to be cool and collected, and others will learn that, and they will receive that on whatever level they receive it. They might not be fully conscious of it, but they will learn that from you. And even if they're not around you on some level, your mind will have an effect, because all of our minds are joined. So when you do this process in your mind, and you clear away the debris, and you find whatever, make whatever steps towards freedom that you do, that will have an impact even without being around other people. Paragraph 5. The idea for today is also a particularly useful one to use as a response to any form of temptation that may arise. It is a declaration that you will not yield to it and put yourself in bondage. Now, one thing, so you can apply that to any form of temptation. What is temptation? Temptation for the Course means the temptation to see yourself as separate, the temptation to see yourself as an ego, the temptation to see yourself as a body, the temptation to see differences outside of yourself and guilt outside of yourself. The temptation to see yourself as guilty. Obviously, you won't see guilt outside of yourself if you don't already see yourself as guilty. The temptation to see yourself as not liberated. Even the idea that you're not liberated is not true, So in a sense, this whole talk that Jesus is using of these are steps towards your freedom. Ultimately, you're already free, right? You're just not fully awake to that yet. You haven't realized that yet. And it wouldn't be helpful if Jesus said, well, you're already free. There's nothing to do. Don't try to do anything. This is not radical non-duality, at least not at this moment in the Course, right? There are steps, practical steps to be taken in the name of your freedom. But just don't forget that you are waking up to the fact that you're already free, right? And you've always been free. And it's not something you need to do. It's that you're undoing the interference, what is in the way of that. Now, the one thing that Jesus does not do in this section, which I kind of already mentioned, is Jesus does not talk about victimhood. It's not really talked about in this section, per se. Jesus does not talk about what that means. He could have used another word, but he used the word victim. Now, it's interesting, and there's not, I don't think there's any other lesson that uses the word victim, unless I'm mistaken. So why does he use the word victim? It just means that no one is doing anything to you. Everything is in your mind. The world that you see is an outward representation of an inward condition, which is your mind's condition. How you see how your mind is, or the state of your mind, your state of mind determines what is out there and what is going to come into your field of vision. And that's a very radical concept if you take it all the way. Because, when something bad happens to you, when something traumatic happens to you, when something horrible happens to you, we do want to blame something outside of ourselves. We want to say, I'm the victim. I am innocent, and they are wrong. And Jesus is saying, here, no. He doesn't spell it out, but if you understand this all in context, he's saying nothing happens without a reason, right? Everything is happening. There's no chance in God's plan for salvation. Everything is happening just as it needs to happen in order for you to learn the lessons that you need to learn in forgiveness, and to be the captain of your ship and aware of your mind, of all that's going on in your mind. Because part of the problem is that we're not fully aware of what is going on in our mind. If we were aware of what's going on in our mind, then we would less and less be the victim, because we wouldn't be making ourselves a victim. And so the world that we see outside of ourselves and our experience would not be one in which we are a victim, but rather we would start to see more and more that we are truly free and able to live with others without there being any need for victimhood whatsoever. Right? We can live without our ego. That's one of Jesus's messages that he mentions in the text. One of the goals of this course is for you to realize that you do not need the ego to orchestrate your life, right? You do not need the ego. That's a big one. Anyway, we're going to end right there, but I wanted to kind of give a little bit more for this particular lesson. I think that the idea of victimhood is a big one. It's a big question. It's a question that that is very tendentious when we talk about these things. People will get upset if you were to say things like that, what I just said, that there are no victims in reality. There's no one to blame outside of yourself. You are learning the lessons that you need to learn. Which is not to say not to, if you are raped, for example, there might be some, you might have to do something about it, especially when it's happening. If you can fight off your attacker, it's not like you're just going to let it happen. And you might also want to try to get this person put in jail or whatever it might be, so that he cannot do that to other people. So this is not precluding that. This is not saying, obviously the Course does not give you any prescription whatsoever about prescription or proscription, meaning what to do or what not to do. The Course does not tell you necessarily specifically what to do or what not to do. It just says use these principles with whatever you do, right? So I hope this is helpful. One last point is there's a difference between what's going on in your mind and then how you will deal with the situation. So, for example, you just use the case of rape, which comes up a lot, with this kind of issue is, victimhood. You're the victim of a rape. If you're working with the Course and you are you deal with that, you are dealing with that situation. In your mind, you can practice forgiveness, but in your actions, you can ward off your attacker, right? You can do something about it. The two are not mutually exclusive. You could fight your attacker and still forgive them at the same time, right? That's not mutually exclusive, actually. And I think that's where people have a problem with all this, is that they think, oh, well, if I forgive that person, that means that, I'm just going to let people walk all over me. And no, that's not what this is saying. In fact, you wouldn't necessarily do anything different than is normally done with all these situations. It's just how you think about it and how you think about the person who did that and how you understand the situation, and that you accept that the situation there was no mistake in that situation. That was no accident. There was a lesson there, and there were lessons in forgiveness to learn. That's the difference. All right. Thanks for listening. And next lesson, I have invented the world I see. It's a big one, another big one. I'm not a victim. I have invented it. All right. See you soon. Thank you.